All right, so this is our new segment called Asked and Answered, where I answer your real estate questions, concerns, where you can try to stump me, or if you have a burning question, go ahead and ask it. So the first question, or the question today, is how much do neighbors affect your property value? And this comes from Jeff. Jeff's actually my neighbor, so I could potentially have some fun with this one. But thank you for the question, Jeff. So when we talk about value, I've got to kind of go through this before we answer that question. Value, in my mind at least, is a property is only worth what it can be sold for. Now we can talk about appraisals, we can talk about tax assessments, we can talk about I refied the property and they told me it was worth this much. But all of that information, whether it's assessments, whether it's a bank appraisal, whatever, all of that information for the most part is based on a comparative market analysis, which what that means in layman's terms is they're looking at what comparable properties have sold for. So to answer that question, we've got to keep that in mind of a property is only worth what it can sell for. So do neighbors negatively affect your property value? Yes, they can, but only to the degree that it affects the saleability of the property. So let's go into that a little bit more. Let's think about how does somebody buy a property? Well, for the most part, they're going to set up a showing. They're going to see it online, okay? And if you've got yourself a good listing agent, you're going to take photos and video of the property, and you can be very selective as far as what photos and video that you put into the listing in the multiple listing service. So if you got a neighbor that's got 10 cars in their backyard, or they've got a howling dog, or they throw parties every Friday night and they keep everybody in the neighborhood up, yeah, that's all terrible, but that's not going to show up in the listing itself. So not necessarily a variable there. The next step in the process is prospective buyers going to come out and they're going to see the property, okay? For the most part, showings will last anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes. Once again, exceptions to every rule. But so to what degree is that terrible neighbor visible, or is that going to be found out by a prospective buyer during that showing? So if they're the type of neighbors that are making noise at all hours of the night, I don't think that negatively affects you unless the buyer talks to the neighbors and the neighbors spill the beans. Because if you think about it, most of your showings are going to happen, for the most part during business hours or into the early evening. And if they're throwing parties every Friday night until from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., that's really not going to show up during that showing. Now, if there's visible issues, like they've got cars in the backyard, or they have 17 sheds, or just trash all over the backyard, yeah, that can potentially hurt you, because a prospective buyer, when they go out to the outside of the property, the backyard, or they pull up to the property and there's something visible, from the street, they're going to see that. Now, what can you do about that? I've never had this clients do it personally, but I've heard of people actually helping their neighbors clean up the property, or paying them to clean up the property, or paying them to not let the dog in the backyard during the showing. And it might hurt your pride to do that, but something to keep in mind is a bad neighbor can cost you anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 in most price points, because it's going to negatively affect your showings, and buyers are going to see that when they come out and see the property. So I hope that answers your question. I hope I didn't confuse you more than I answered the question. But if you have a real estate question or concern, go ahead and direct message me. You can email me. You can reply to this email. You can comment in the video, and we'll try to get it answered for you.